Hello everyone, welcome back to the Python programming series. In today's lecture, we'll continue exploring the built-in functions and methods for the remaining data types, tuples, dictionaries, and sets. We'll also learn about Python comprehensions, a concise and powerful way to create collections. So, let's dive in and start coding. Let's get started with our first topic, tuples. So a tuple is an immutable data type. That means you cannot change a tuple once it has been created. You cannot make any changes. It is enclosed in a parenthesis. Always remember that you can perform the operations on a tuple by converting it to a list and then the list back to a tuple. Right? Next we have the benefits of a tuple. Tuples are faster than lists and the data is write protected because obviously the tuples are immutable, so the data will be write protected and this makes it faster. Tuples can be used as keys in dictionaries unlike lists. Next there's a note which says it is possible to create tuples which contain mutable objects such as lists, which means that a tuple can have a list as an element. So the operations include creating a tuple, indexing, slicing, concatenation, repetition, membership, and comparison. Since the tuples are immutable, we only have two built-in methods, count and index. All the rest of the operations that can be performed are the built-in functions that work with tuples. The first method that we have is the count method. Supposing we have a tuple over here, we have taken A as a tuple, enclosed in parentheses with the elements 2, 4, 6, 2, 8. Now, on trying to print a.count of 2, we are trying to count the number of times we have 2 in our tuple A. So, we'll get the answer to be 2 because 2 appears 2 times in our tuple. Next, we have the index method, which is used to find the index of a specific element. So, we have a tuple A, which stores these elements. Next, on printing a.index of 20, we will get the answer as 1 because 20 is present at index number 1 of the tuple A. Moving to the next concept, which is swapping using tuple assignment. So, we are taking two variables here, A and B, assigning the values of 20 and 50 respectively. Now, to swap the two variables, you can make use of tuple assignment in this way, right? And now on printing values after swapping, A would be assigned the value of B and B would be assigned the value of A. So, the values get swapped and now we have 50 and 20. Earlier it was 20 and 50 for A and B, and after swapping, it becomes 50 and 20. Coming to the note, it says elements of a tuple cannot be deleted. But if element itself is mutable like a list, its nested elements can be deleted. So we can delete entire tuple using the del keyword. So this note means that the elements of tuple cannot be deleted. But if there's a mutable element like a list inside a tuple, the elements of that list can be deleted. For example, we have an example over here. We are taking a tuple tub and we have a list as an element over here. So the elements inside this list can be changed, right? They can be deleted. We are using del tuple at index number 4, which is this list, and then its element at index number 2. So the element at index number 2, which is 3 in this case, will be deleted and we'll have this list. Now, on using del tuple at index number 4, the list cannot be deleted. Only its elements can be deleted. So we'll get a type error. Always remember this. This is a very important point here. Unlike lists, tuples are immutable. So we only have two built-in methods for tuples, the count and index method. All the other operations that we'll be performing on tuples, including the len, min, max, sorted, reversed, and sum, they are the Python built-in functions that work with tuples. So without wasting any further time, let's get started and learn about the built-in functions and methods for tuples. Firstly, we have the len function. So let us create a tuple first. Let us name it numbers. Tuples are enclosed in parentheses. Now, using the len function, let us try to print the number of elements that are there in this tuple. So on running this code, we'll get the answer as 5. Next we have the max function. Let us try to print the maximum or the largest element that we have in this tuple and also the minimum number. So on running this code, we'll get the maximum value as 50 and the minimum value as 10. Next we have the sum function, which returns the sum of numeric elements. Let us try to print the sum of this tuple. So on running this, we'll get the sum of all the elements which are there in this tuple named numbers. Moving on to the next function. The next function that we have is sorted. So it returns a sorted list. Let us create a new list num tuple. So we'll take the values as 8251 and now print the sorted tuple. So sorted of num, we get the elements arranged in ascending order in a sorted way. So we get a new sorted list, and this is because tuples cannot be modified. That is, tuples are immutable. Next we have reversed. So on using the reversed function, it returns the elements in reverse order. We get a tuple with 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 arranged in the reversed order. So if you want the tuple elements to be in reverse order, you can make use of the reversed function. Next we have any. So supposing we take a tuple values and take some values in it. Let us try to print any of the tuple values. So we get a true because there is at least one non-empty element, right? There is one element which is truthy and it is 5 here. If we try to print all, we'll get a false because for all we need every element to be a truthy value. I hope it is clear. Moving on, we have the built-in function which is tuple. So it is used to create a tuple. Let us create a tuple using that now. Let us create a tuple and in braces we'll mention the element. So now on printing the letters, we'll get all the elements in the form of a tuple. It converts an iterable into a tuple. Next, enumerate. Let's do it quickly. Supposing we have fruits And now we want to find the index and the value in enumerate. So enumerate function returns an enumerate object. So for that reason, we are using the for loop. And now let us try to print the index and the value. So we get the values along with the index. So mango is at index number 0, cherry at index number 1 and apple at index number 2 in the tuple which is fruits. It correctly matches, right? Now we have the zip which combines multiple tuples. Let us quickly take two tuples. Names and marks, right? So now using the zip function, you can combine the two tuples. So to combine the elements from multiple tuples, you make use of the zip method. In brackets, we'll mention names, comma, marks. And now on running it, the corresponding elements from multiple tuples get combined. Alright. Next we have the count function. So it counts the occurrences of a specific element. Supposing I have a tuple and now I want to count how many times the element, let us say 4, is repeating. So on running it, we get the answer as 3. We have 4 3 times in our tuple named num. It returns how many times an element appears in the tuple. Next we have index. Index is used to find the first occurrence. Let us try to print num dot index of, let us say 1. So we get 0 because element 1 is at index number 0. Similarly, you can try for element at index number -1. Okay, we need to mention the element here. -1 is not there, so we get a value error. X not in tuple. If we try to see where we have 4, at what index? So it is at index number 3. Alright. So it gives us the first occurrence of the element. We will get the index of the first matching element. Next we have membership operators. Let us take a list fruits, a tuple here. Sorry for that. Let us take a tuple. And now let us try to check whether we have the element which is banana in fruits. So we'll get a true value. Next, let's try to print whether cherry not in fruits. So we'll get true because cherry is not an element in this tuple. So you can use the in and not in operators to check whether an element is existing in a tuple or not. Next we have tuple concatenation. Let us take two tuples T1 and T2. Now let us try to concatenate the two tuples. Concatenation is done using the plus operator. We write T1 plus T2, and on running this we'll get a tuple with the elements from both. So a new tuple is created by joining two tuples here, that are T1 and T2. Moving on to the next concept, which is tuple repetition. Supposing I have a tuple colors in which there are two values, red and blue, and now we want to repeat it. So we'll write print colors into 3. So we want it to repeat 3 times. So on running this, we'll get the answer which repeats a tuple multiple times. So we have red and blue repeated 3 times now. So this is all for the built-in functions and methods that we have for the data type, which is tuples. Now we have the next data type, which is dictionary. So let us start with the functions that can be performed on a dictionary. Firstly, we have the zip. So it combines two or more sequence, list or tuples. It returns an iterator where each tuple contains one element from each sequence. So supposing we want to zip list 1 and list 2. So here the elements of list 1 will act as keys and the elements of list 2 will act as values, and we'll get a dictionary on typecasting it, right? Next we have any. So any returns true if at least a single key of dictionary is true, else false. So we need at least a single key of the dictionary to be true. Next we have all. All returns true if all keys of dictionary are true. The len function calculates the length of dictionary, that is the number of key value pairs. Moving to the sorted function. It returns a sorted list of dictionary keys. I hope this is clear. Now let's look at a few examples of the Python built-in functions that we have just discussed. So for zip, supposing we take a list keys and the values are A, B, C. We take another list vals and these are the values. So on using the zip function, keys comma values in brackets, and then using the dict built-in function, on printing the dictionary, the keys and values will be converted to a dictionary. So here the elements of keys will act as keys and the elements of vals will act as values for the dictionary. Next we have any. So we know it returns true if at least one value is true, or non-zero we can say. So here in this dictionary D, if we write any of D dot values and try to print it, we'll get a true because 5 exists, right? We have 5 which is non-zero. Then coming to all, it will return true if all the values in the dictionary are non-zero. So all of D dot values on printing will give us true because here all are non-zero. Similarly, let us take another example. Supposing this is the dictionary now and we have these values. So we have 1, 0. All the values in the dictionary are not true in this case. So we get false on using the all function. Moving to the len one, which will give us the number of key value pairs. So here in this dictionary we have 3 key value pairs. So we get a value of 3. Next we have sorted, which returns a sorted list of keys or items from the dictionary. Supposing we have a dictionary D over here and we use the sorted function. So all the keys are arranged in a sorted order. Note here, the keys are arranged. Okay. So if we try to print sorted of D dot items, then in that case we'll get a list with the tuple pairs, right? So there's a quick summary. Let's go through it quickly. Zip function, it combines iterables into key value pairs. Any function true if at least one value is true. The all if all of the values are true. Len function to calculate the number of key value pairs, and then sorted to return a sorted list of keys or items. Now let's quickly move to the methods that we have for dictionary. Firstly, we have the clear method, which removes all elements of the dictionary. Moving to the next one, we have copy, which returns a shallow copy of the dictionary. Next, this one is important. We have from keys, in bracket you mention the sequence, comma, the value. So it creates a new dictionary using elements from sequence as keys and values set to value, right? The sequence you will mention will act as keys and the values will be set to the value. Next, moving to the get method. Get method, you mention two arguments, key and default is equal to none, if you want to assign a default value. So it returns a value for the key if found, else it returns default, which is none. Alright. Next we have items. So the items method returns a list of key value tuple pairs. We discussed it in the functions as well, d dot items, and then used the sorted function. So we get to know that the items method returns a list of key value tuple pairs. Next we have the keys method, returns keys of dictionary as a list. Moving on, we have set default. In brackets you mention key, comma, default is equal to none or any other value that you want to assign. So it will set the dict at the key, specified key, as default if the key is not found. We have update method as well, which appends one dictionary key value pairs to the calling dictionary. Lastly, we have values method, which returns a list of dictionaries, right? Which returns a list of the values that are there in our dictionary. Now let us quickly go through a few examples related to these methods. So firstly we have the clear, which will remove all the items and create an empty dictionary. So we have a dictionary D. On printing D dot clear, we will get an empty dictionary. Now copy to return a shallow copy of the dictionary. We have a dictionary. We use D dot copy and assign it to C. Now a new dictionary, or we can say a shallow copy of the dictionary, is created. Then third, we have from keys. We are taking a list here, keys, and then dict dot from keys on mentioning keys, comma, 0. So 0 is the default value which will be assigned. We get a dictionary of this sort. The fourth method that we have is get method. We have a dictionary D. The key A has a value of 1 and the key B has a value of 2. So D dot get of A will give us the value which is 1. D dot get at C will give us none by default, because we have no value at that key. That key is not present. Next we have D dot get. You write C and then you can even set a default value of your choice. Here we have set it as not found. So we get not found in this case. Otherwise, if you don't set a default, we get none. The fifth method we have is items, which will return a view object that contains the key value pairs or tuples. So D, we have a dictionary over here, and on using D.items, we'll get a list consisting of tuple pairs. Right? Key value tuple pairs. Sixth method we have is keys. So we have a dictionary D over here, and in printing D.keys, it will fetch us the keys as a list. Right? So A and B here are the keys, and 1 and 2 are the values associated with them. Values will return the values as a list or a view object. So we have a dictionary D, the values are 1 and 2. So on using D.values, we'll get 1 and 2. Moving on to the next method we have, which is pop method. It removes the item with the specified key and returns its value. If the key is not found, it returns default. So we have a dictionary D over here, A as 1, B as 2. So A and B are the keys here, and 1 and 2 are the values assigned. So D.pop at A will give us the item at the specified key. So A has a value of 1 and D.pop at C, and then we are specifying the default value which we can get if the key is not there. So we get a 0 because we don't have a key named C. And then on printing the dictionary, we are left with a single element now, which is the key B assigned to a value of 2. I hope the pop method is clear. Next we have pop item. It removes and returns the last inserted key value pair as a tuple. We are taking a dictionary D over here. A, B and C are the keys. 1, 2, 3 are the values associated with them respectively. So on using D.pop item, the pop item method will give you the last inserted key value pair as a tuple. So we get C, 3, and on printing the dictionary, C, 3 will be removed. So now we will get a new dictionary with A, 1, B, 2. I hope it is clear. So it will remove and return the last inserted key value tuple pair. Right? Next, moving on to the set default. So you can set a default value. This method will return the value of the key if present. If not, it inserts the key with the default value and returns the default value. Supposing we have a dictionary over here with just one key value pair. So now on printing D.setDefault, A as 0, we'll get 1 because the key exists. And on printing D.setDefault, key B with a default value of 0. Since we don't have B here, we'll get a value of 0 which is set as default. Now on printing D, we have two key value pairs. Alright. So this is a simple concept, but you need to keep it in mind. Moving to the last method, the 11th method we have is update. It updates the dictionary with key value pairs from another dictionary or from an iterable of pairs. We have a dictionary D, A and B are the keys, 1 and 2 are the values assigned respectively. So on writing D.update, you mention a dictionary inside, supposing B a value of 20 and C a value of 30. So on printing D, this will be the new dictionary. We are updating the previous dictionary. Next, on updating D.update, we are mentioning this iterable of pairs. We have a list. So on printing D, we will get the new updated dictionary. right? So this is all for the Python dictionary methods. Next, let's move to the built-in functions and methods for our next data type, which is sets. So always remember that set is an unordered collection of unique elements. We do not have duplicate elements in our set. Then here's a note, we discussed it in the theory lecture also. Set is mutable, whereas the elements of a set are immutable, which clarifies that the lists cannot be used as elements in a set, right? So you mention the sets in a curly braces, or you can even use the built-in function set to define a set. So what all operations that you can perform on a set? You can use the membership test. You can even eliminate duplicate entries because we have only unique elements in a set, and then perform the mathematical set operations. You would have studied about union, intersection, symmetric difference, set difference, right? So we'll be discussing it now one by one. Let's start with the functions and methods. Also remember that the set does not maintain the order of insertion. So the order of insertion is not fixed in a set, and there is a concept of frozen set, which simply means an immutable set. Now without further delay, let's start with the built-in functions through this mind map that we have over here. So set is an unordered mutable collection of unique elements where duplicates are not allowed, and we are taking an example of a set over here. This is how you define a set, enclosed in curly braces. Let us start with the operations. So firstly we have union, which combines elements of both sets. So we have two sets over here, A and B. So now on doing A union B, we get this set with the combined elements, right? Next we have intersection. So all the common elements from both the sets are fetched and a set is created. So A and B, the only common elements that we have in A and B is a 3. Alright, moving to the difference. So elements in A that are not in B, so we write it as A minus B. Whereas if you want to find the elements of B not in A, you will write D minus A. So A minus B will give us 1 and 2. Moving to the next, symmetric difference. So elements in either A or B but not in both will give us 1, 2, 4, 5, because the elements in both are just one single element, that is 3. So we'll remove 3 and the rest of the elements will be considered in symmetric difference. Then we have subset. So it is true if A is a subset of B, which means that if all the elements of A are present in B, so A would be considered a subset of B. So let us check if A is a subset of B. So we have A as 1, 2, 3 and B as 3, 4, 5. So no, all the elements are not present. इसलिए we'll get a false value. We have another example. Supposing we want to check if this set 1, 2 is a subset of 1, 2, 3. So yes, all the elements 1 and 2 are present in this set. Therefore, it will give us true. Last we have the superset. So true if A is a superset of B. It is the reverse of subset. So now, supposing we want to check whether 1, 2, 3 is a subset of 1 and 2. So yes, these elements are there in this one. So we'll get a true. Next, the second point we have is the built-in functions. So the built-in functions, we've already studied them quite a lot of times now. Firstly, we have the length, for length or the number of elements. So we'll get 3. Min, the smallest element, so it will be 1. Max returns the largest element, so in this case it will be 9. Sum, the sum of all the elements for numeric sets basically, so we'll get a sum of 10. Sorted, the sorted list of elements, so we'll get 1 2 3 4 in a sorted way, ascending way. Then any, and then in brackets the iterable, so it will return true if any element is true. So yes, there's 1 which makes it true. So we need all the elements to be true, and this gives it true. Next we have the methods. So in methods, firstly we have add, which adds an element x. Supposing we have a set 1, 2 over here, s dot add 3 will give us new set. Remove will remove the element and otherwise raise key error if not found. So we have a set over here 1 2 3, and s dot remove add 2 will give us the set with the element 2 removed. Discard, which removes element x if present and there is no error if not found. So s dot discard at 4, there is no such element, but it will not give any error, it will give us the same set as before. Then pop, it removes and returns a random element, raises key error if empty. So we have a set s and s dot pop, so on printing x we will get the value as 1 or 2 or 3. It is not fixed, it returns a random element. Next we have the clear, which will remove all elements and give us an empty set. Moving to the copy method. So it will create a shallow copy. Update method, which will add all elements from iterable. So the elements 3 and 4 will now be added, only unique elements are added. Then we have the union, which returns the union of sets. We have two sets over here, A which shows the values 1 and 2, B with 2 and 3. So union will give us 1, 2, 3 in a set. Intersection, just the common elements. So A with 1, 2, 3 and B as 2, 3, 4. The common elements are 2 and 3 in both. So intersection of the two sets will give us 2 and 3. Coming to the last one, the last method is difference. So to find the difference of two sets, we have A as 1, 2, 3 and B as 2, 4. So difference will give us all the elements except the common elements. So we'll get 1 and 3. Right? We are using A minus B. So elements of A not in B. This is what we'll get at the answer. 1 and 3 are not present in B. You can even create a set using either the set constructor or using curly braces. We have already discussed this, and an empty set using the set built-in function. So we have discussed it that if you simply mention S is equal to curly braces, it will not create an empty set, it will create an empty dictionary in Python. Moving to the notes, sets are unordered, no indexing or slicing allowed, the elements must be immutable, and there are no duplicate elements allowed in a set. Now let us understand the Python mathematical set operations that can be performed. We have union, which combines all elements from both sets. So this is the symbolic representation. We have two sets A and B over here. So the union will give us 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? All the elements from both sets. So you can write it in two ways, either A dot union of B or using this sign. For example, we have A as 1, 2, 3 and B as 3, 4, 5. So A dot union of B will give us this set, and this is another way of finding the union. Next we have intersection, which will return the common elements in both sets. So in A and B, the common elements are 2 and 3, right? So you can use this method using the intersection method or using this symbol, which is the AND. So this is the example that we just discussed. These are the two ways of finding intersection. Moving to set difference, which returns elements that are in the first set but not in the second set. So if we are finding A minus B, so elements of A that are not there in the set B. So A minus B will give us elements of A which are not there in B. So 2 and 3 are there in both, so we'll get just 1. Whereas if you want to calculate B minus A, in that case we'll find the elements of B which are not there in A. So we'll get a 4. This is the example we just discussed. So you can find the set difference using A dot difference of B or A minus B. And similarly for B dot difference of A or B minus A. Okay. So now we have some other useful operations that can be used with sets. Firstly, we have the subset. So subset will return true if all elements of A are there in B. So yes, all elements of A are there in B. We'll get a true. So you can use A dot is subset of B method or this symbol, right? The less than equal to symbol. For superset, there are two ways. You can use either the is superset or this sign, right? We'll get a true for this example because elements of B are there in A. Moving to the next, we have disjoint, for which we use the is disjoint method. So it gives true if the sets have no common element, right? So A has elements stored 1 and 2, B has 3 and 4. So there is nothing in common, no element, we will get a true. In case it would happen A has 1, 2, 3 and B has 3 and 4, so we'll get a 4 because there is one common element, so we'll get a false value. Next we have symmetric difference. So elements in either set but not in both, right? So we have A as 1, 2, 3, B as 2, 3, 4. So on printing A dot symmetric difference of B or using this sign, you can perform the symmetric difference two ways again. We'll get 1 and 4. Alright, because 2 and 3 are common, so they won't be counted. Now note, set stores unordered unique elements already discussed. Output order may vary. We discussed insertion order is not fixed. So for union, you check for all the elements. Intersection, just the common elements. Difference, that the elements which are only there in the first set but not in the second set. Symmetric difference, in either but not in both. Moving to a next very powerful concept in Python, which is comprehensions. So Python comprehensions are a short and readable way to create collections in a single line. Firstly, we have list comprehension. So lists are enclosed in square brackets. It will help us create a new list in a single line. Syntax goes like, in square brackets, you mention expression for item in iterable if condition. Here note that the if condition is optional. We have an example. Supposing we want to find the squares of numbers from 1 to 5. So we can make use of the for loop. So in a single line you can do it using, let us create a variable squares and store a list in it with this syntax. So we mention the expression x square for x in range 1 to 6 because we want x to go from 1 to 5. So on printing squares, we will get the square of numbers from 1 to 5. In a single line, you are able to perform this, right? You are able to create a collection in one line. Next, we have set comprehensions. So a set is written in curly braces. So it will help you create a new set in a single line. Syntax is the same, expression for item in iterable if condition. Let us understand with an example. We want to print even numbers from 1 to 10. So let us create a variable and create a set in it. So for x in range 1 to 11, if condition, we'll have to find the even numbers. So x modulo 2 should be equal to 0. That will verify if it is an even number or not. So on printing the even numbers, we'll get a set of even numbers from 1 to 10. So this is basically used for filtering out, right? Dictionary comprehension stores the values in key value pairs in curly braces, right? Key value pairs are there. So syntax goes like key expression. Firstly, you mention the keys, alright? And then with a colon, you mention the values for item in iterable if condition. So for item in iterable if condition remains same. For list you have expression, for set you have expression, and for dictionary you will have keys to value, right? So example, squares with numbers as keys. So we are creating a dictionary here, squares underscore dict, and now the key is x and the values will be x square for x in range 1 to 6. We want to print the dictionary now. So for the key 1 square is 1. For the key 2 square is 4. For key 3 square 9. For key 4 square is 16. For key 5, square of 5 is 25. The range goes from 1 to 6. So we include values of x from 1 to 5. 6 not included. Now there's a note. Let us see what it says. So comprehensions make code shorter, cleaner and easier to read. In a single line you can perform a task, right? You can create a collection. The conditional part, the if statement is optional. The set comprehension removes duplicate values automatically, right? And it is best suited for simple loops and filtering. So basically we have comprehensions for filtering out and basically you use it for simple loops only. So a list comprehension starts with square braces and you get a list. Set comprehension starts with curly braces and it gives a set. Dictionary comprehension, you mention the key value pairs in curly braces and you get a dictionary as a result. So that is all for today's lecture.